So welcome everybody. Welcome back to United in Strengths. I'm Ryan Nemec here with Ruth Pierce from the VIA Institute on Character, and we are delighted to be here to focus in on peace for the family. So peace for the family is our focus today, and I thought that it might be best to start with a story that comes from Thich Nhat Hanh. So some of you might have heard of when he's offered the story either verbally or in his books. Some people think of it as the refugee story. I think it's enormously applicable to our theme, as you'll see here. So Thich Nhat Hanh shares this story of when refugees are fleeing their homeland, their country, because of turmoil that's going on, and they're oftentimes in these boats in turbulent waters, and storms that are hitting them, and huge waves, all sorts of challenges on the water. And then other times in these refugee boats, there's attacks by pirates. And so Thich Nhat Hanh goes on to say that the key in these situations is that if just one person remains calm, that can often be enough to help everybody survive. So if one person is feeling their breathing, calming their body, level-headed, calm in their facial expressions, balanced in how they talk, clear with what they're saying, doing everything they can to just kind of keep themselves focused, maybe even positive to some degree, that can then save everybody. Because we all know that the contagiousness of upsetness and frustration and fear. So if one person, oh my gosh, we're all gonna die, and then the next person, oh my gosh, this is awful, and then panic just goes about the whole boat. And maybe that causes pirates to do something rash. Maybe that causes bad decisions in terms of managing the boat in the waters. I don't know. But that one calmness, that one person that's bringing peace, that's bringing calm, can then reverberate throughout the whole boat. So I'll actually just give you his exact words. Thich Nhat Hanh's exact words were, so this is kind of a summary of what I've just said. When the crowded refugee boats met with storms or pirates, if everyone panicked, all would be lost. But if even one person stayed calm, it was enough. It showed the way for everyone to survive. So in these instances of, in our situation right now of COVID, can you be that person that's bringing peace to the family? So amongst the chaos, amongst the challenges with your relationship partner, with your immediate family, with your children, grandparents, whoever you've got living with you, or as you're trying to figure out everything. Maybe some of you are working and there's chaos, and as you're figuring things out in this new world in the work environment, and people are feeling sort of a sense of unpeace. Not that that's a word, but unpeace. They're feeling agitated, they're feeling upset, they're feeling easily triggered, they're afraid, they're very scared. And all those are normal feelings, by the way, of course, to name and to talk about. But rather than falling into the contagiousness of, oh my gosh, yes, it's going to be so awful, can you become that person that brings peace to the whole group? In other words, can you find peace, or can you be peace? Maybe you can do that in a way that is not perfect and it's not constant. As we don't want to think of peace as you've got to be peace all the time for every person. But maybe there's instances when we can make some kind of a difference. That's the practical way of thinking about peace. And as Thich Nhat Hanh would say, and I would say, and lots of people would say, a key way to find peace, a key way to be that peace, that refugee among all the other refugees, or that person in chaos in their family. A key way is to be cultivating the art and beauty of the present moment. So to be practicing mindfulness, practicing being aware, practicing feeling our in-breath and our out-breath. And sure, that might physiologically create some peace. Sometimes that can cause calmness for our body to practice mindfulness. But it also brings a sense of centeredness to our mind, a sense of focus. So that's why people have a practice. That's why people practice meditation. That's why people practice different mindfulness practices. And then I would argue that's why people practice with character strengths. They're practicing working with their gratitude or their love, their kindness or their curiosity or social intelligence. Because we're creating a stronger foundation when we practice with mindfulness or character strengths, creating a stronger foundation so that then when we walk out of this room, when we walk in and engage with our family, we then might just be a little bit calmer. We might be more focused and level-headed when we're dealing with the pirates or when we're dealing with the high seas. So that there, so far, in those 7 minutes that since I've started, we've been talking about a bit more of a positive piece. So about, creating that sense of harmony in ourselves to then be peace, and how it can impact our family in a positive way. So now let's look at more of a negative piece. And again, these aren't good and bad, positive, negative. These are just the frames that researchers use to talk about peace. So a negative piece of kind of maybe de-escalating problems. We're not going to talk exactly about that, but kind of in that frame a little bit. And so I'd like to talk about hot buttons. And so hot buttons is a term that we use at VIA quite a bit, and I've been doing so for about 10 years. And it refers to the sensitive areas around our character strengths. So it refers to when our own personal buttons are being pressed, our character strength buttons are being pressed. So a hot button, so for example, if I always use this as a classic example for me, but I had a family member that was visiting an art gallery that I kind of work in the midst of at VIA. It just happens to be within an art gallery. And I was showing this family member, who I won't name, the art, and these aren't my pieces of art, but they're priceless pieces of art. And the person was just, kind of shrugging it off, almost defiantly uncaring about it. And that irked me. That I felt frustrated by that. Not in a huge way, on a 1 to 10 scale of anger, 10 being the highest, it was probably like a 3, so a small irritation. But and what was happening is that person was not displaying curiosity at the level that I would have liked her or him to be displaying curiosity. So it was touching my curiosity hot button. I was getting frustrated in that sense. So we all go about our day and we get our buttons pressed and we get irked by minor things and big things. And we can frame this in a very interesting way with character strengths. So generally, a hot button happens when one of two things happens. You perceive, that's key, you perceive. It's not necessarily reality, but you perceive in your mind that somebody else is overusing one of their character strengths. Or you perceive that that person is underusing their character strengths. So in the example I just gave, I was perceiving that this family member was underusing their curiosity. And then that upset me. I care about curiosity. I try to be curious with that person and with the things they're interested in. So shouldn't it be somewhat reciprocal? So it's a curiosity hot button issue for me. An example of overuse for me is when somebody is proselytizing, which means to push their religion, or their spirituality on me, or when I witness it on another person. And by that, I try to be very inclusive and open to all religions and spirituality. But one of the things that irks me is when people are exclusive, or they think that they've got the one path, and that they need to put that path on everybody else. And that's a frustration point for me. And so that, by my perception, is an overuse of spirituality. Again, that's my perception. I have to be aware that that doesn't mean I'm right, just my perception. But that's why the important thing is my own self-understanding, that's why I'm getting upset, because of this dynamic of overuse, or in the other example, the underuse. So I would invite everybody to think about their own life, and you can do this in a way of just, what are your hot buttons? Or you can think of any time that you feel irked or upset about something in your daily life. That could be the starting point. And then you can look to, well, what is it that's what's being touched in me? Which character strength am I perceiving that might be being underused or overused? A common one in this world is if we see somebody underusing kindness, that can upset a lot of us. And by the way, it doesn't matter if the strength that you're perceiving as overused or underused. It doesn't matter if it's a signature strength for you or not. Now, you might be more irked by people using your signature strengths in an imbalanced way. So, like, I might be a little bit more sensitive around, say, some of my higher strengths, like curiosity or spirituality, but that's not necessarily the case. It could be any of the strengths. So think in your life, the people that you're with, the people that you love so much, and you could say lots of wonderful things about them, and you should spot their strengths and appreciate them, and you should. But also, be honest about what are the irks, what are the frustration points, and then look at it from this hot button issue. What are they firing up in you? What are you being maybe a little sensitive about? Framing it in character strength language as a way of understanding yourself and getting insights, and actually, by the way, getting resolutions. Because once I understand that, I can feel a lot more free, and I can talk freely to the Jehovah's Witness person once I'm realizing the hot buttons in me that are being pressed. So, and by the way, I get more irked by non-Jehovah Witness people. So I just was using it as an example. So just to give some more examples. So in my life, if my wife, says something that I'm not doing, or kind of blaming me, if I perceive it to be blaming me for not doing enough, in a particular situation with the kids or the house or something, and I could get upset by being the recipient of that blame. So then I could say, well, okay, wait, that's a perfect example. So I'm getting frustrated. So what character strength is being touched in me? Maybe it's fairness. So then I could say, well, what am I perceiving? I'm perceiving the underuse of fairness, that I feel she's underusing her fairness. She's not treating me fair, that I have done A and B and C. But by me naming the underuse of fairness, that frees it up. It creates immediate peace for me and an immediate potential to let it go. Whereas if I don't perceive the underuse of fairness, that she's just using a character strength out of balance. She's still trying to use it. She's doing the best she can to use a strength. It's just not being in a balanced way. Or if I didn't know that, if I didn't perceive that underuse of fairness, I could get in a back and forth, like, oh, well, no, you're the one at fault. Look at all the great things I've done with the kids and the family. Look, A, B, C, D. And then we go back and forth, and it's just a conflict. So that would be one example. Another example that's happened here in COVID-19 is when I get upset with one of my kids. If I get frustrated if one of my kids is not engaging in their schoolwork or their homework, and I start to feel frustrated that, well, you got to do some reading practice here, and the person is showing no interest in doing the reading. So then I could say, well, what's going on in me? What is the hot button? Well, for me, it's different for everybody, but for me, it's curiosity or love of learning, perhaps, but curiosity where I perceive that that he is underusing his curiosity with his schoolwork, and that upsets me because I want my kids to be using curiosity and love of learning with their schoolwork. So then I can notice that that's going on in me, and that kind of frees me, and it frees me to new insights, and you know, you're giving them a second chance, or taking it easier on them, or sitting there and really explaining how important curiosity is and love of learning. And so let's sit down together and do this. So it frees up different possibilities. One more example. Very, very current, and I'm just telling you all my issues today. So one of my big issues, I'm not shy about it, is I get upset, and this is so common, and it's probably going to call it a lot of people on this call, but you don't have to raise your hand on this, when people are not wearing masks in the grocery stores and in my community and so on. And it is a hot button issue for me, and it's a very live one. So I go into the grocery store, the chain around here is Kroger, and I would say 60% of the people aren't wearing masks. And this was a couple weeks ago, and I know things are lightening up and so on. And still there's the mandate and so on in the state of Ohio, and it, and I get frustrated and I start to perceive these people as being defiant or being cavalier, being uncaring. And sure, they might be take the risk for themselves, but they're causing potential danger for people with poor immune systems, like both of my parents, by the way, older people, younger people, and so on. So that defiance kind of fires me up as it's a hot button. So then I can pause and say, well, what's going on here? What is the character strength issue? And I'm perceiving the underuse of prudence, not being pragmatic in that way, and planful and cautious. I'm perceiving the underuse of social intelligence by not having an empathy for those other people that could be impacted, sort of a lack of empathy for people in that situation, and so on. And I know it's different for every country, different issues for everybody, but these hot button issues are on me, just like your hot button issues are on you. So it's all about finding and discovering your own hot buttons, and then, if you want to, figuring out a way to deal with it. So awareness is key. That's where mindfulness is key. The self-honesty, you could say, is key, and that opens up a chance for you to create peace for your family, for yourself to be a little bit stronger, and so on. So let's turn this with a meditation, and we'll just go right where we left off with this hot button issue. And so I'll invite us to consider one of our daily hot button issues, something that happens that's frustrating for you, that somebody's doing, or a particular situation. And we'll practice exploring the character strength that's fired up. And we'll also practice priming yourself with character strengths. So that means to think about character strengths before you then interact with that person the next time, or before you, in the case of me, go into the grocery store and you're going to be facing unmasked people. Sounds like a superhero story. So what character strengths will I need to use to prime myself as I'm sitting in the car in the parking lot? What character strengths do I need to prime to go in there? Maybe it's perspective, maybe it's a love for all people and respect for everyone can make their own decisions, whatever it might be. It's for me to decide, and what strengths I'm going to prime myself with to then go into the grocery store with more peace, to go in to talk with my wife with more peace, to talk with my child with more peace. So that's priming. So we'll do that in this meditation too. So I invite you to take on a posture of strength. Allow yourself to feel strong right now, which means to occupy a position of strength with your body. It means to root yourself with your in-breath and out-breath. So to really feel your in-breath Really feel your out breath. Really be present. When you're breathing in, you can feel it. You're there for the in-breath, just as you're there for the out-breath. And so as you breathe like this, feeling rooted and strong with your breath, I invite you to consider a minor irritation or irk or struggle that you tend to have with a particular person or situation. And you know it's going to happen again. That irritation, that struggle, it'll happen again, probably today. So just call that to your mind for a moment. As you breathe, kind of in the safety, in the comfort, the peacefulness of your breath. And with that irritation, I invite you to consider which character strength is being touched in you. What's being fired up in you? And asked another way, what character strength do you perceive is being overused or underused by the person? What do you perceive they're bringing forth too much of, and that bothers you? Or too little of, and that bothers you? And of course, it could be many strengths that are being overused or underused. So try to just pick one for now. What is being triggered in you? So that right there can be enough. That awareness point right there can be the healing that we need. But we can take it one step further to be even stronger, especially for our families. So I want to invite you, even right now, to prime one or two of your character strengths to help you the next time this situation happens. So that means right now, think for a moment about one or two of your character strengths, any of the 24, that you can use in that situation. Perhaps you can even picture yourself using one or two character strengths in a balanced way, a helpful way in that situation. Maybe it helps you to be peace in that situation. Maybe it helps you to get a sense of perspective on the situation. Or maybe it helps you to deliberately do the dialogue, the conversation with the person in a stronger way. But really knowing that you have these character strengths, whichever ones you've selected, you have them in you to use with this irritation or with this issue or problem. So perhaps allowing that just to crystallize in your mind, knowing that the best research-based advice would be to also prime yourself again with these character strengths that you want to use right before you go into the situation. So you've done it now, so you know what to do, you've cultivated them a little bit more in your body and mind. So then when you're in that parking lot or you're about to walk into that bedroom or family room or kitchen to talk to somebody or to go outside to your neighbor, right before you do, prime yourself with one or two character strengths that you'll try your best, imperfectly, but to try your best to use. Bring that along with your mindfulness.